So there you have it. Donald Trump's one big beautiful tax bill has officially passed. So let me break down everything that this means for you and your wallet. And there's a lot to talk about. So without further ado, as always, my name is Derek. I got my degree in finance. You don't have to. Let's dive right in. So we're going to ignore the original 2017 tax cuts because that was clear from the get-go that that was going to be included. What I want to focus on is the three big promises that Donald Trump made. Those were no taxes on Social Security, no taxes on overtime pay, and no taxes on tips, which sort of kind of made their way into the bill in one way or another. Then we'll talk about the ramifications or consequences to this bill because, hey, everything good has a consequence. Everything bad also has a consequence. So first and foremost, the easiest to talk about is Social Security because it's not in the bill. And this more so has to do with the fact that they were trying to pass this bill and did pass this bill with the reconciliation process. That just means a simple majority, 50 votes, which means they couldn't really touch Social Security. So what they did instead is they added a $6,000 bonus, if you can call it that, to senior citizens' deductions. This is kind of a workaround, and it's kind of Trump's way of, or I guess the Republicans' way of making good on the promise. Now, is this the exact same thing? No. That's not the same thing as no taxes on Social Security. Okay, so that's not in the bill. The other two, though, are in the bill, but with very serious caveats that we have to talk about. So let's first talk about no taxes on overtime pay. So this is in the bill. With that said, it's capped at $12,500. What this means is that if you make $50,000 in overtime pay, only $12,500 of that is going to be tax-free. So that is I've spoken to a lot of people who make overtime and who make a significant portion of their income through overtime. $12,500 is either not a lot or it's a drop in the bucket. So yeah, it's better than nothing, but it's not nearly the same thing as no taxes on overtime pay. On top of that, remember that only the overtime portion of your overtime pay is going to be tax-free. So what I mean by that is, let's say you make $50 an hour. Overtime, you make $75 an hour. Okay, only that $25 difference on your overtime working hours is going to be tax-free. So not the entire $75 per hour, but only the $25 difference. When this was first announced months ago, this was shocking, okay? Because it's not the same thing. Now, when you have the cap in place of $12,500, it doesn't really matter because only $12,500 of your overtime pay is going to be tax-free. So yes, this is in the bill, but there is a major warning or caveat or label that we have to put on this. Okay, so those are the first two. The third is no taxes on tips. This is also in the bill, but is also, of course, capped. Now, this one is capped at $25,000. So a lot of people who make tips, a huge portion or the majority of their income is through tips. Okay, think waiters and waitresses. Think bartenders. I mean, those people can make $50, $60, $70, $100,000 in big cities per year. A large portion of that is through tips. Okay, only $25,000 is going to be tax-free. That means if you make $50,000 or $70,000, you're a bartender in a nice bar in a city, you're not the entirety is going to be tax-free. Okay, so 2 out of 3 made it into the bill, but they both have, serious warning labels. The next thing that we have to talk about is how this is going to be done. It's going to be a tax deduction, or basically you're going to file your taxes. If you make say for tips, you make $75,000 a year, $30,000 of that is tip income. That means you would file the $75,000. $25,000 of that would be tax-free, and then $5,000 of your tip income would actually be included in your taxable income. And now the biggest kicker here, okay, is that these three things, the $6,000 bonus, the sort of kind of no taxes on tips, and the sort of kind of no taxes on overtime pay, these all expire in 2028. Okay, so that is in at best 3 tax years. You have 3 tax years to make use of these measures before they expire. Now, the original tax cuts, those are made permanent. So yes, those do benefit. I mean, we have larger standard deductions, and everyone's taxes to a degree are less under these original Trump tax cuts. So those are made permanent. With that said, everybody knows these original ones favor heavily upper income earners or above average income earners. Okay, these are made permanent. So if this video sounds biased against this bill, it is. Newsflash, it is. When you look at this bill objectively, not subjectively, I would say that the campaign promises on the campaign trail were not nearly or even close to fully met because of the limitations. And the real one is because of the fact that these expire in just a couple of years, 3 years, 3 tax years. Okay. So to me, what it looks like is you have a bill that you dangled 3 carrots in front of the American population, right, to get people to support this bill. And what you actually end up with is, of course, permanent 2017 tax cuts. But you also get basically a bill that funnels, for lack of a better word, funnels taxpayer money, because that's what it is, funnels taxpayer money to upper income earners while dangling 3 carrots, no tax on Social Security, tips, or overtime pay in front of the everyday American or the average American, while at the same time cutting economic and social safety nets. Medicaid is the big one, okay? Rural hospitals, funding for rural hospitals. So you have a bill that favors the upper income earners. You dangled 3 carrots in front of middle America to get people on board with this. And then you cut the people who need it the most. Medicaid, right? Healthcare is a huge portion of being comfortable and safe, is knowing that you're going to be taken care of if something goes wrong. Now, before we talk about the budget deficit and the national debt consequences, because there are consequences here as well, I want to stress this because I think this needs to be stressed, and it isn't stressed enough. Okay, Middle America, the average American is much closer to being in a situation where they need Medicaid than they ever are being in a situation that they become a millionaire or a multimillionaire. That is just statistics. That is just how the dice falls. That is just how the cards fall. That's just how it is. Okay? So when you have a bill that cuts economic safety nets while at the same time benefiting upper income earners, yes, maybe not today or tomorrow or the next day, middle America will be directly, severely affected. The problem is that when you go through life, there's a much higher chance that you need Medicaid than it is that you become a millionaire or multimillionaire or ultra high income earner that benefits from this tax bill in a major way. So, okay, now let's talk about the national debt and budget deficit consequences. This bill is projected to be the single largest increase to the national debt by any bill in U.S. history. It is estimated to add over $3 trillion to the national debt over the next 10 years, while at the same time cutting hundreds of billions of dollars in Medicaid funding. So if you're making cuts here, but yet somehow the national debt is still increasing more than it otherwise would have, the major question is, of course, where is that money going? And we all know where it's going. Okay. Now, what about the budget deficit? Well, Republicans, historically or traditionally, have been the fiscally conservative party, right? Maybe there's some on both sides, but they have traditionally been that. This bill is not fiscally conservative at all. This bill is in no way getting us closer to a balanced budget or lowering the national debt. Okay? This bill is doing the opposite. So when it comes to, I would say if you're under 40, really if you're under 50, but if you're under 40 for sure, this is going to impact you. The national debt is going to impact you at some point because GDP is eventually going to slow as the country matures. And Right now, it doesn't matter, and that's why politicians don't care, because they only care about getting reelected. So they kick the can down the road. Because, hey, if GDP keeps growing, we can grow the national debt. Eventually, GDP is going to stop growing because guess what? You can only have so many people on the planet. You can only find so many ways to innovate, and unless we're going to start traveling the stars and colonizing other planets within the next 20, 30 years, not going to happen. There's not huge ways of like just massively increasing population or innovation. And if you can't increase those things, GDP is going to eventually naturally start to slow down. And then the national debt becomes a real major problem. So if you're an average middle America, good old American, or your children, those are the people who are going to have to foot the bill eventually. That's why I've also said many times on this channel, politicians need term limits because they need to stop caring about getting reelected. And they need to start caring more about doing what's best for their constituents while they're there. So yes, this has major ramifications for you, for me, for wealthy people, and for, unfortunately, lower income earning people. Probably more severely for the lower income earners because of the safety nets that this is going to strip. But yeah, that's the bill. It passed. The original tax cuts are permanent. The three promises, no tax on tips, overtime pay, Social Security, these have very clearly become carrots that were dangled in front of everybody to get support for this bill, while at the same time making them expire. And then Social Security is not even in the bill because they want to do this through reconciliation because they don't have the votes to do it normally, which requires 60 votes. But yeah, I'm going to keep, without risking making this video way too long, I'm going to cut it here. We'll have to see how this plays out over the next year, but this happened. It's official. If you like personal finance, world economics, and investing, then you're in the right place. I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. With that said, take care. See you in the next one.